What's shaking? Hey, I'm Rick Jordan, and today we're going all in. All right, I'm pumped. I'm super pumped because we met at an event. You know what's crazy, guys? I don't even remember what event it was. I think which one was it?
World Sports Philanthropy Network in Chicago.
That's it. Yeah, because let's introduce you guys first, right? We've got Tanner, Kim, and Sean. Is it Croker?
Croker, like the
fish.
It
is Croker. Yep. Nice. That's awesome. Cool, guys. So what attracted me to you guys, I remember this. I think you grabbed me and you're like, hey, can you do some content real quick, a video, whatever. But you told me about really what you guys are doing, and you're still in school, right? You're in college?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What years? Like, is it sophomore, junior?
Seniors.
Seniors. Mm-hmm. Really? No kidding. That's awesome. What are you doing next year? Because, you're like almost through everything. No, we say school, we're saying college, obviously.
Yeah, we're still figuring that out, but
yeah. Guys, I was on a show the other day. Can we talk about this a little bit, please? What types of pressure are you under right now to like figure all your shit out?
I guess you could call it pressure. I've got a job lined up in sales afterwards. But again, the League of Angels, yeah, you never know what the League of Angels could turn into. It's been a lot more fruitful than we were expecting. Yeah. So I think in a perfect world, the League of Angels is a full-time thing, and we start traveling to whether it's speak or just at different conferences to promote the League of Angels and have these awesome events on the weekends. But man, it's just we're super on the Lord's timing right now. So I wouldn't say that pressure is the right word for it, but we're dead stuffly still up in the air.
Yeah. Typically, Tanner, I want to hear your perspective on this too. And I'll give you mine first, if that's okay. I remember, I'm 45 now, right? I try to stay looking young, hopefully. Somebody told me like 2 years ago that I look like a solid 34. And I was like, great. But I think, guys, in the last 2 years, I got a lot more white in my beard. In just 2 years, taking a company public will do that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It'll turn your stuff white. But yeah, I remember, guys, like when I was 18, 19, and I didn't go to college. Well, I shouldn't say that. I went to college for 2 weeks. And it was just a local Joliet Junior College is what it was around Chicago. And with that, I still went to school like in the high school I just graduated from. So it was weird. Like it didn't feel any different. You know what I mean? Mm. Maybe that was part of it. But at the same time, I was like, I just want to get out there. And I was in sales, dude. Yeah, I just want to get out there. I want to sell and I want to make some money. And that's exactly what I did. But then obviously it worked out well for me. Yeah, but at the same time, I had so many people around me, who were like my elders, so to speak, right? They were like, what are you going to do with your life? Where are you going to go to school? What's your job situation going to look like? How's your life going to look like? What's the career you want to pick for the next 30 years? I'm like, whoa, bro.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know exactly. But that's so it's like my heart has always been in that age group that you guys are in right now, like 18 to 25, because it's like you're expected to have so much figured out in such a short period of time. So that was, Sean, that was like the basis of my question. I still want to hear from you, dude. It's like, what are you feeling right now?
Yeah, well, I'm about half in and half out of school. I'm taking like 2 online courses right now. So I think a lot of the stress is self-imposed, like as Tanner said, we're on the Lord's timing right now. And, really learned that over the last year. I didn't know League of Angels was going to be something that'd be a part of my life, so I'm really just trying to float through and see what doors open up, make some calls, some interviews here and there for local jobs, but we're really trying to see where this organization goes. So I'm not in too much of a hurry to hop into that corporate rat race just yet, but it is something looming and something I'm working on in the background.
Yeah, I feel you. Because you want to make the right choices, right? Mm-hmm. It's I do feel for you because there's a couple things. One, and this is why I'm so drawn to guys like you who are still in school, right? Because of everything that's shaken down in this time period of your life. And there's so much to think about because you got all these really, really cool things that are happening, like with League of Angels, which we will talk about for sure, because I want to. That's what I love what you guys are doing. But then you have all these other responsibilities that are kind of like looming. And then I'm sure you get the questions too, I'm sure both of you are moms, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's like, cool. Did you find a girl? What's that looking like? and if you have a girl right now, then it'd be more like, okay, well, is it serious? You've been with her, what, 6 months? I think something should come out of this. What are you thinking about that? Like, whoa, I'm just trying to enjoy life. Seriously, it's,
sure.
What's that?
No, for sure. Yeah, it's the truth.
Yeah, right on. Everybody feels that way. And I don't understand why, guys. I don't get it, because I love this, because normally I don't talk this much when I have guests on. I talk a lot all the time, but seriously, it's like, you guys grabbed my heart when we met in person. Seriously. And I hope that some of this can actually help you just kind of be like it's okay to take a breath. Because I hope that at some point, if League of Angels is really something really cool, and I want to hear two things, like, of course, the whole story behind League of Angels, but there's something you mentioned, and it makes sense to me. It might not make sense to everybody that's listening, that I want you to go into. Both of you said the phrase, "It's all the Lord's timing right now." Now, what does that mean to you?
Man, we could go down a whole rabbit hole with that question. To put it in brief terms, the League of Angels, or I should say God used the League of Angels to really be a catalyst to bring me deeper in my faith. And so our whole goal with this thing is, how can we use it to be a catalyst for other people's faith? How can we bring God to other people? Baseball is a great sport, but how can we really, truly bring this love to other people through this game? And so with that, it wasn't really something that me and Sean both grew up even having a heart for, to be honest with you. The Lord dropped it on our heart, and we're like, okay, well, it's definitely not our idea. So then we're going to be on your timing with this thing. And man, he's just paved the path and carved and opened and closed doors that we wouldn't have expected. Definitely. So. Yeah.
So you said you didn't expect it. And Sean, I want to hear your take on the same phrase, right? Lord's time. You said you didn't expect it. What does that mean? Like, you didn't expect to be involved in baseball. You didn't expect it to actually reach the people you're trying to reach. What do you mean by that, Tanner?
We didn't expect to start this nonprofit. So, I mean, I was a baseball guy my whole life.
Yeah.
But I was never a peer tutor in high school. I was never involved in that community. I know nothing about the special needs community. I knew nothing about business. Like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I was just swinging a stick, and I got the opportunity to play for a long time. And so when I came home and was just thinking, I'm going to go to school, hang out, have a blast, probably still play somewhere.
Say, Mom, stop pressuring me.
Right. There you go. Come home, and God drops it in my heart to start this thing. And I'm like, shoot, I don't know how to even do this. And then, of course, I run into Sean, and he's like, I'm a lacrosse guy. I'm like, okay, well, let's try to take this thing to the moon. And
that's cool. Yeah. I didn't know you were a lacrosse dude, Sean. Oh,
yeah, for a little bit. Yep.
That's cool. I want to come back to that, Tanner, because you said some more stuff, right? It's you guys obviously go to a Christian school. We talked about that too, right? It's I can't remember. Was it Belmont?
No,
we go to the University of Tennessee.
University of Tennessee. Okay. Oh, so it's not a yeah, it's a state school. Okay. I thought it was Belmont. Maybe I was just connecting that with Tennessee. I don't know. That could be. But that's interesting, because there's other stuff I want to come back, because you're using some phrasing, right? This show goes global, right? It's everybody, all walks of life, and there's certain phrasing you're using, like the Lord's timing. God dropped it on my heart. I totally get that. I helped plant 3 churches. I understand how that goes. In addition to all the corporate stuff, it's like I've got a strong foundation in faith too. But Sean, you said the same thing, man. You said, whatever God's timing is. So what does that mean to you?
I'm a big planner and organizer, and I hate when things don't go the way I want them to. Didn't think I'd be going to Tennessee. It was just kind of a safety school, I guess, graduating from high school, and toured there and fell in love with it. And, I've got plans to originally do architecture, switched over to finance a year later.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to Nashville, been praying about it. Lord, I think, said to stay in Knoxville for numerous reasons, campus ministry things, League of Angels. And I've learned to just kind of, walk forward with a loose plan, but God will really just throw things and people in your paths. I met Tanner at church a year ago, and he just said, hey, there's this baseball thing I'm working on. Heard you're a finance guy. Let's get some coffee and talk. And that conversation ended up being 3.5 hours long. And, here we are. Then we're going to Chicago together. So it's definitely, and
I love that.
I couldn't imagine the last couple of months being any different. I couldn't have imagined it up to be what it was, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's cool. That's so cool. Yeah, in the days when I was a pastor in the church, I was ordained. I helped plant 3 churches and everything. I've got a single share from Disney up on my wall. It's like my favorite quote in the whole entire world from Walt Disney is that at some point you have to stop planning and start doing. Mm-hmm. And it's so important because when you say things like, "Oh, it's in God's timing," guys, I don't get it, but there is just something in the Christian community that they're like, that means just wait and sit on your ass and do nothing. And you've probably run into this too, but like for a dude like you, Sean, where you're like, "Oh man, I'm planning stuff." It's like I'm itching to do things. Or Tanner, it's like, I've got all this cool stuff right in front of me, but I'm still waiting on quote unquote God's timing. But that doesn't mean I've never found it to mean sit there and stay still.
Right.
So it's like, how do you guys balance that to where it's like, it's the faith, right? Sean, I think you mentioned it, dude, because you're like, I'm a planner, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And planning, it's like, if I can't go to step 2, from step 1, what's going on? And how do I also quote unquote wait on God, right, to speak in that time period? What does that mean? How do you guys reconcile that?
Well, that's been, the last, as I mentioned, I'm on 1 foot in school, 2 classes right now. So looking for work. And speaking with one of my mentors, I'm like, man, I'm just, waiting for the cliche doors to open or the doors to close to see what the heck I'm supposed to do, whether I go corporate or hang out with the nonprofit longer or what have you. And he said, my mentor goes, sometimes the Lord leaves 2 doors open for you. And he's like, both are okay. I don't have to. So I'm trying to find the balance between moving forward, but also just waiting to make sure I do the right thing, because my plans last year have just been in complete disarray and they've all gone better than I'd drawn up. So, just kind of leaning into more so just taking Jesus with you. Oh, we call him the wizard, he's a smart guy, but, I moving forward, I'm like, well, I'm in Columbus right now, and it was kind of on a whim, ministry related thing. And I said, you know what? I don't know if there's a clear answer whether to go here or not, but I'm taking you with me. So, just help and anoint my steps ahead of me and just be with me, because I want to do this with you and not apart from you.
That's cool. Tanner, I want to give you a concept and give me your thoughts on this here. Going off of what Sean said a little bit, because like I said, your mentor, dude, he's awesome. Sean, saying like when there's multiple doors open, it's like, there's not really a wrong choice. Mm-hmm. I once had a mentor when I was younger talk about like the one, right? From a spiritual perspective, like the person you're meant to find and meant to marry, and then it's like, how does that reconcile with free will? And it's like, well, what does God want? Who did God, set you up for your life? And it's like, if you've got 8 women in front of you, right? They all look really good. You're attracted to all of them. All of them will support you in what you want to do. All of them match you in personalities. It's like, then I think, to your point, Sean, it's like, just freaking pick one, like right then and there, because there's probably one that you're going to be drawn to, but so many got hung up on this, like, I need to find the one, right? Or I need to get the job. I need to figure out what I'm going to do, the one thing I'm going to do after I'm out of college. And it's like, no, there's so many opportunities. There's so much that's there, and you've got these choices. So maybe just hop back and forth between 2 for the time being. What do you think, Tanner?
No, I definitely agree. The whole origin of the League of Angels is, I was playing baseball at Kentucky and came home and it got put on my heart. So, and again, I don't think that if I would have decided to keep playing after that, I think the Lord would have definitely still used and brought me in my faith somehow or another. I'm very thankful, to have started the League of Angels and have that be the catalyst. But no, I hate the idea that, it's just the passive thinking, and passive faith is one way to word it. And man, I'm just one of those guys that's like, I'm either going to go 110% in, or I'm just not going to do it at all, because it used to be a waste of time if I didn't.
Yeah.
So when I felt like the League of Angels was put on my heart, I'm like, we're either going to do this thing or we're not going to do this thing,
Well, that's a good point too, bro. Seriously, because it's like on this conversation, which I love where this is going today, because it's always been a big part of my heart, guys. is everyone's so worried about like, what's the right thing for me for 5 years from now? Well, what's the right thing right now? Like today, what is it? Because that means that I can maybe find out what's right for tomorrow. Everyone's so worried about like throwing themselves in the future. It's like, I hate that question. I mean, you're going on job interviews all the time, probably not, right? It's like that question, like, what's your 5-year plan in life? I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, I'm senior right now, right? I want to make sure I get through school. I got this cool thing going on called League of Angels. I don't know where that's going to go. At the same time, I got to make some money because I got to put food on my own table, find a place to live. It's like, that's right. Like right now,
right.
5 years from now is something that I'm like, well, okay, I'll address that when I get there. Seriously. Yeah. But that's cool. So League of Angels, guys, baseball. I love it. Played it for 9 years. Absolutely enjoyed the game tremendously. But now you're doing it for special needs kids, right?
Yes, sir. It's
incredible, right? So tell me, you said that it was dropped on your hearts. How did you get it going? What does it mean to the people that are involved and to you?
Man, so about 1.5 years ago, 2 Julys ago, I lost baseball, was thinking about, what school am I going to go to? Just feeling really lost in life. And I was sitting in a church service at a church here called City Hills, and the pastor was giving a message about a sword. So like you dropped your sword. And the idea behind it was that you had maybe dropped the gift that God's given you. It is time to pick it up and use it for something else and use it for him. And in that moment, like I just heard the voice of the Lord that was like, you're going to start a baseball foundation for kids with special needs. And it was not like some audible, deep, scary voice. It was just like, I have to do this and I don't know why. So I sat on it for about a week. And I came downstairs. My parents were just as confused as I was because, again, I have no affiliation with that community. I really didn't have a heart for it until God put it on my heart. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. So I remember talking to my dad, and that same little voice, like, you're going to call it the League of Angels. And I'm like, all right, let's do this thing. So I remember, just setting up a couple meetings around Knoxville and just, again, knocking on doors, being curious, trying to do some research on my own with how nonprofits even work. And then once we decided to dive in, we're like, okay, we thought it was going to be a little 30-person, event on the weekend. That's why I ran into Sean on at City Hills as well. And so I'm like, okay, we'll just help each other out and we'll just do some small events on the weekends. Then it ended up blowing up. This past year, we served around 900 people, and now we're starting a college tour this year as well. So we're like, we didn't think it was going to turn into this, but it's pretty awesome. 900? Close to it.
That's insane. Like incredibly, amazingly, wonderfully insane. That is just, I'm really blown away. It's things come together. And you said like you looked into how a nonprofit works, right? It works a lot like a business, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. So Sean, you're the finance guy, right? Enlighten us a little bit. How's this looked from the numbers perspective so far?
Well, it's been real interesting. The biggest difference is just raising money. Yeah. We're not a for-profit. So if you were to take a salary, which we're not right now, trying to reinvest back into it, running off a couple grand a month.
It's just like a startup. Seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find that balance and say, if and when there is a salary in the long term, what does that look like? We have to bring people in to work with us as contractors. There's different forms you got to fill out. Then there's the taxes and the IRS, which is, a lot to learn. It's like drinking through a fire hose. But the other thing is, how do we ask people for money? Because typically you'd sell something or, you'd offer a service, and we are offering a service, but, there's a lot of fulfillment that we get to do that for free. And the biggest thing is, we're not getting paid to do any of this. So how do we ask people for money? Because that's so out of our wheelhouse and it's almost uncomfortable to a sense. But the phrase that we've been saying lately is you have not because you ask not. So, we just had to learn to embolden ourselves and just say, this is really something the Lord wants to do in our lives and through us. Then he will, he'll provide ways for us to get to Chicago, to meet people like yourself, and to get to DC 3 weeks later and what have you. So we've learned to, be bold and just kind of trust the process.
That's cool. It's a different process than because you guys are church dudes, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing growing up since I was young. It's very different there. when they're asking for money, at least in my experience growing up, it was a lot more of like a guilt trip in some ways.
Right.
I've had conversations with this about people who have done like documentaries exposing the church. I'll send it to you because it's incredible. Like all the money, like even at Lakewood Church, how they found $600,000 like stored in the drywall of the church, from people tucking it away. It's crazy, crazy, crazy stories. But I remember my youth pastor, he was going through like a rough time. His brother had just died. His brother played baseball. His brother was actually on the minor league team for the Minnesota Twins, awesome. ready to move up shortly. And he died from testicular cancer when he was just like 26 years old. And it was rough for him. I saw him go through the grief, and I had lost my dad when I was just 16, like a year prior to that. So it's like I knew what he was going through. And I remember it was the Assemblies of God called him because with that, everybody knows the tithe, right? 10% of what you have is supposed to be given back to God. It's already his, at least that's how it's taught. From him, it was the pastor's tithe didn't go to the church they were pastoring. It went to the denomination, like the infrastructure, the hierarchy. So he had just forgotten for a couple months. His brother died, right? And they called him up, and I was sitting in his office when it happened. His name was Tim. It's like, hey, Tim, you haven't sent in your tithe for a couple months. What's going on? He's like, oh man, I forgot. I'm sorry. It's just, this is what's been going on in my life. Hey, could you help me with praying for me and all that? And I'll never forget like the response on the other side, because he had it on speakerphone, and this is when he took it off. He said, well, tell you what, Tim, I understand all that, but did you pay your light bill? Did you pay your mortgage? And this was like from one pastor to another. It almost like turned into like a collection agency call in the middle of that. So, well, yeah, you have not because you ask not. There's also, it's like, maybe you have not because you're demanding from other people. That's just my way of looking at it. But truthfully, though, the way I think the churches should be doing it is being just like a nonprofit, like you guys, like, hey, here's the vision. Just like a startup, right? Here's the vision. Here's how we want to help some people. Can you help us help some people? Mm-hmm. These are our finances. It's transparent. This is what we feel our mission is, at least right now, right? Maybe not 5 years from now, but at least right now, we've got these kids that we're helping with baseball. Can you help us? And they'll see the passion in your eyes, as you've seen so far, like you're starting to get money. You be transparent with people and show your heart. It's the same way like raising capital for a public cybersecurity company. Like, this is where I'm going. I'm sure I'm going to mess up along the way. There's going to be some great returns, right? In the spiritual sense, right? There's going to be some great returns for something like this. It's like, you can't even fathom. I've seen that in my own life too, rather than being like, oh, I think you should just give because you know what? God demands it of you. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Bad way to go about it.
For sure. But I feel you. But, so I love this because I want to help you guys totally. And I hope that helps too, because coming from a church setting, it's a very different way that church people tend to ask for money, almost like it becomes an obligation versus like, what is it? It's a cheerful giver, which means somebody that gives of their own free will, that wants to, because it's something they want to support.
100%. And it goes to the people that are on our team as well that help out here. They know they're not doing it for money. Like how much of a servant heart do you truly have to go out and serve the community? We're not forcing anybody that's on our team to be on it. I mean, me and Sean included. We want to be obedient to what God's called us to, but we're not going to force people to be a part of it. We're not going to force people to show up. Our motto is like, if one angel shows up, we're going to throw an absolute blast for him and throw a party for him. So we don't try to think about the numbers or the demands too much. We just try to, be as obedient as we can.
That stuff fills in. But I mean, how do you guys feel now? I mean, going from 30 people to 900 people in just a short period of time is incredible. I mean, to me, if you're ever looking for a sign, like that's something that should be taken care of, right? As long as you're still having fun with it, I think it's a good thing for you guys to continue to go down that path and just see where it ends. At the same time, I think the income and stuff like that will take care of itself. And I believe that you should absolutely continue to ask for dollars to help support what's going on. Mm-hmm. Unashamed. Seriously. Because you need it, right? It's like, well, we have these bills. Here's how much it's going to cost to do our thing. Can you help us? It's that easy. And then they'll come out of the woodwork, guys. But 30 to 900, seriously, I want to ask you, in that time span, what has been your absolute favorite thing that you've seen happen? Pick like one instance from both of you. I want to hear from both of you.
Yeah, I already know mine for sure. I remember we had an event over a year ago. So not last October, but the last October before that. And it was our very first event ever. And we had 20, 30 volunteers there, maybe 10, 13 angels show up. And I'll never forget, I was like, I don't know what this thing is going to look like, but let's just go in for it and see what it looks like. And, you know, couple of my buddies were just the ones working the event. And I'll never forget, we had an awesome event. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people's eyes got open to the idea of it. And I remember walking up to an angel, is like, especially its individual there. And I just asked, I said, hey, well, you know, what'd you think of the event? I'm just trying to get some feedback. What'd you think? And this guy just turned to me. He goes, man, I just never thought that I would get to be a baseball player for a day. And it hit me in that moment. I'm like, man, this is a little bit bigger than what I thought. And I'd taken so much for granted in my own life. And I was like, okay, well, what was your favorite part about being a baseball player? He said, I never thought it would be physically able for myself to be able to hit a home run. And I was like, that's when it had me hooked. You know, I'm like, that's just, you lose perspective and you take things for granted. You know, I'm like, I've been hitting bombs my whole life. And then, you know, you see, you know, someone who doesn't normally get the opportunity to think they will have that opportunity until they actually get it.
That's so cool, man. I love that. As I was thinking about that, I didn't mention it, but I was like, you know, like, tell me about the time one of the angels hit a home run. You know, it's like
it's more often than you'd think.
Likely. Dude, Sean, how often do you smile when you see that? Seriously.
Man, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I would say my favorite, you know, is it puts a smile on your face 24/7 when you're the entire time. And I think what's real impactful too is seeing the community out there. You know, there's one of our buddies came out a little quiet and timid, and by the end of the event, the angel he was with would hit a bomb, and he's running around with the angel, you know, and hair's flying and a big smile on his face, and he comes back and he's like, I want to come back again. Like, this was awesome. And we met with one of the parents of an angel a couple weeks ago. We're like, what does this mean to you? How can we be better, you know, in just serving Knoxville as a start? Are there resource groups that we should be partnering with, and how can we make more of an impact than just a monthly events? And for her to talk about the impact that it's had on her family and her son, just coming to the events, and she goes, he is just so happy and he's so excited to get there. And, you know, he might not be as expression full in his daily life, but when he's at a League of Angels event, it is just a brand new experience each time. And he is just smiling, and he walks home just, you know, not the same as when he got there. So I think, awesome. You know, as much as the impact is that we have on the Angels, it impacts us, I think, twice as much, especially some of the ambassadors will have come out who are playing, you know, professionally, and they come out and like, wow, it's like, this is the game I fell in love with. You know, it's no agents or media and all that. It's just stripped down baseball, and it's very joyful.
100%. I want to add too that it's just, you know, we are serving this community who doesn't normally get the opportunity to, but I feel like I tell people all the time, it's almost more important for the volunteers. Like, a typical League of Angels event is around 25 to 35 to 40 angels, right? Which is awesome. But then you got a 3-to-1 ratio, and that's 75 to 80 volunteers that get to see the game in a new lens and get to hang out with this community, right? So whenever they come to an event and you see moms crying while they're videoing their kid, you know, volunteers who, like Sean was saying, are in the MLB coming out to check out what we are doing, and they are just blown away by, you know, seeing the game in a new lens, if you will, because they were surrounded by this pressure-centered, camera-aged environment. And they just, you know, every hit's a home run. These kids are just flying around having a blast, and it's just a big party for them. It's like, it opens a lot of people's eyes.
That's incredible, guys. All right, we're going to flip it as we start to wrap up here, but I'm also curious, like, give me one moment you can recall. You know, I don't know, maybe it was like the caterer didn't show up or something like that, right? Or whatever it is, that was just a real struggle in that moment. Real talk, you know, it's like, because it happens. Like, even though everything's been great that you've been talking about, it's like, I'm sure sometimes it goes through, it's like, why am I doing this again?
Yeah. I remember one day, we had a lot of angels sign up. So we had about 25, 30 angels sign up for an event. And man, we had maybe 3 volunteers. Ooh. It was like nobody was coming, and we're like, we can't serve this many people with this team we have here. We need more volunteers. And I remember just grinding all week, just getting more and more pissed off. Like, I'm just like, this is so frustrating. Like, nobody is going to come to this event. And I remember sitting in a Publix parking lot and, bringing it straight back to God. I was like, God, I'm upset right now. Like, you put this on my heart. Nobody's showing up. And it was almost like a reassurance. Like, you haven't even asked me. And I'm being so serious when I say, I'm like, all right, Lord, like, can we get some volunteers here? Like, almost in like a, come on. And my phone just starts blowing up. And within 2 minutes, we had gotten 35, 40, then 50 volunteers. It was insane. It was like all within 5 minutes. And it was almost like a check that like something went, I'm like, we're going to cancel this. I don't even want to do it because nobody's showing up. And
that's the choice, right? It's like, do I cancel or do I push through?
Right. And I was like, all right, Lord, this is yours. You got to take care of this. Yeah. Keep doing this. And he always provides. So
Sean, your what the hell moment.
I'm trying to think because, we'll get stressed out the week before just about little things that aren't coming together. A venue we partner with the local Dick's Sporting Goods, and they've got an amazing outdoor facility. And the day of, it's supposed to rain. So we're getting tents set up, wind's blowing everywhere. We're trying to blow balloons. And like it's, we got 45 minutes till people start to show up. And, then the sky kind of parted. And, we pray a lot, we're like, Lord, this is completely yours. And, if this, we say his yoke is light, his burden's easy. I might have that backwards. But, if this is something of him, it's not going to really be a challenge to push forward. And there will be challenges, but, we just turn around and like, all right, Lord, if we're supposed to have an event today, you've allowed this partnership with Dick's and it's supposed to rain, just clear it out for a little bit, and it started raining as soon as the event was over. So, there really haven't been too many strenuous situations. And, we've just learned to kind of turn it back around. Like, if this is of you and this is something you want to happen, then make it happen,
That's cool, guys. Remember that going forward too. And this is where we'll leave this for today, because you guys are awesome. And everyone, it's the leagueofangels.org, right? Is the site to go to support these guys. I mean, Sean and Tanner, incredible. I met them at the event, and now we're having a great conversation, really, really picking apart their hearts, right? Today, guys. But as you keep going, like, you're going to have those moments, right? Because I think you guys are really onto something. You've got the full weight of my network to try to help you keep this thing going. And when you get to those moments, guys, you bet, guys, when you get to those moments, I want to encourage you to come back to those anchor parts, because there's going to be some times to where this is just how life is, and they're not tests, by God or anything else. It's just how life is, because he's not cruel to make you wait until, people say like the 11th hour, right? That phrase, which has happened, it sounds like a couple times, but there's going to be a time, probably more than one, to where it's like the 11th hour, 59th minute and 57th second, and you're going to experience those over and over again, but I've always seen, seriously, like in those moments myself, is when I start to recall those anchor points that you guys have had, like when the sky parted and the rain stopped, right? To where all of a sudden, Tanner, your phone started ringing, like 50 volunteers just like popped out of nowhere. Like, those are going to be the ones where it's like, it's happened before, he's done it before, which means it's going to happen again, he's going to do it again. And that's it. You got the anchor points, guys. You're amazing, seriously. I appreciate you. I appreciate your hearts. Thanks for having a conversation with me today.
Thanks for inviting us.
Dude, yeah, thank you for having us.
Good job, guys.